Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is Retro Recap 17.
Hey.
Are we excited?
Yeah, I'm excited because
yeah.
I get a week off. You know what I'm going to do on my day off?
Play video games?
Yeah. Big surprise.
Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing.
Big surprise. For those who don't know what a retro recap is, means you're new to the show, so welcome.
What's up?
This is our chance, I don't know, about quarterly, few times a year. What do we say, every 20-ish episodes, but we're very loose with that term. We take a week and hand the podcast over to some of our community members and let them do a retrospective review of our retrospective podcast. It's super meta. They have a ton of fun going in and talking about the games that we have played somewhat recently, the episodes, our opinions, all of that. It's a lot of fun.
What that means is, I'll translate it. It means they were going to roast us for about an hour and a half about how we were wrong about games, and it'll be great.
Sometimes it's deserved.
No, it's a voice of reason when we were unreasonable.
For the last few retro recaps, Garlyle, Shawna, and Klen have been hosting that, and they are returning again to lead us.
Welcome back.
In a phenomenal retro recap that begins with Pikmin. Do you even remember that?
So far, so long ago.
And includes games like Xanadu, The Land Before Time, Return to the Great Valley, and our first ever double feature of Portal and Kirby Superstar.
I feel like we waited too long to do this.
Crazy.
There's a lot of good
That's old
and bad games in here, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the best retro recap of your entire life.
Welcome to New Game Plus Plus, a retro gaming podcast where three fans spend 26 weeks listening to one podcast, where three guys spend 7 days playing one game, and then they talk about it, and then we talk about it. I'm not Dustin, I'm Garlyle.
And I'm not Kenny, I'm Shawna.
I'm not Nolan, I'm Klen Nolan.
Nolan.
And,
Nolan.
and this is Retro Recap 17. We're here today to celebrate half a year of New Game Plus, and there has been a lot of New Game Plus since we were last here. We've had producer pools, directors episodes, there was a Christmas cast, there was an anniversary call-in, a Redux episode, and plenty in between, so we're going to have a lot to talk about. But before we begin, we're well into the era of questions of the week on the podcast, so as you introduce yourselves to the community, offer us an answer to a simple question: what game do you love but find hard to recommend to others? Shawna, you first.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name's Shawna. You probably know me from the Discord community. So probably not that new unless you're new. Hi, welcome. What game Okay, so I have a very Kenny answer to this question. So I'm going to answer it with a non-answer, but I have a example. So I think a game in general that would be very niche to a person is really hard to recommend to other people. So a game that I don't like but I think can fall here would be like an Alpha Centauri, which is very specific. And if I liked a game like that and then I maybe suggest it to somebody, I don't know, like Dustin, who might get very enraged about the game. But a more realistic example of a game that I would like that I think is kind of hard to suggest to people would be like Animal Crossing. Like, it's a cozy game and it's not everyone's vibe. But I think that games in general that are super niche are kind of hard to suggest to other people.
Yeah, and I'm Klen. If you've been around the Discord at all, you know who I am. A game I love that I find hard to recommend probably goes to Chibi Robo. Even though it's a good game, I can understand why people wouldn't get along with the gameplay loop. But it's good, and you should play it. It's not going to stop me from recommending it.
As it probably shouldn't. I'm Garlyle. You've probably heard my voice on the podcast several times by now, and if you haven't, you've heard me in the commentary of episodes. And unlike you guys who have picked niche games, I've picked Dokapon Kingdom, a game that is basically Mario Party the RPG, and it takes like 30 hours to complete a playthrough. It's incredibly fun, but you have to be sure that you have friends who are going to endure that, because it will make you want to kill each other by the end of it. And that does make it hard to recommend.
That sounds horrible.
The monopoly of party games, truly.
I'm like, what? No.
Oh, it's absolutely horrible in the best sort of way. But before we get into the episodes, let's quickfire some questions about the last 25 games. Don't think too hard, just first answer. What's the oldest game we've had on the podcast recently?
Oh, that one that was like an isometric view and there was like, I don't know, castles and one of those?
Not close, but Xanadu might be the one you were thinking of.
It wasn't that one, I don't think.
I was going to say
Do you
Lost
remember
Levels.
Surprisingly, I don't think so. What was the newest game on the list?
Oh.
Oh, Left 4 Dead?
It was one of the 2008
Wait, it was
ones.
Lost Levels.
And those games just came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead, when it premiered on the podcast, had only qualified for the Retro Master list for a week. What do you think was the most represented console this time around?
Ooh. I'm going to say PlayStation.
That's correct. The PlayStation won this time, surprisingly. How many of the games that we played were action RPGs?
Oh, 7.
All of them.
Yeah, trick question. And roughly what percentage of games do you think got NGP this time? Just off the top of your head, guess a number.
4.
I'd say less than half.
So 52% of the eligible games got New Game Plus status.
Nice.
But, and this is very interesting, if we cut out the direct submissions from pools and anniversary episodes and such, only 40% of the randomized games this time got New Game Plus status. It seems like we got given a whole lot of games that that our cast had a little bit of difficulty recommending. But, do you know what game isn't that hard to recommend? Pikmin. So anyway, we started off with the best game ever made. At the end of the producers' after party, which we were in the middle of last time we were all talking to you, we got Pikmin, the 2001 GameCube RTS ? Puzzle game ? Little friend simulator.
Dumb baby simulator.
Stop it. This is
Absolutely.
it's an amazing game. I love that I feel like we're picking up right where we left off, because like our last episode together, this is what we were talking about. We were so excited, and now we can continue that conversation. I was so disappointed that Kenny was not on this episode, because I really at first wanted to hear what his thoughts were on this, because we love this game, you know, as a community. A lot of us are very excited about it, but actually after what Kenny did to Doshin the Giant, I don't trust Kenny with like choices anymore. And I've always been Team Kenny, but I think I have to move to a different squad.
Yeah, at the end of the year, everybody did. All the hosts, including Kenny, surprisingly, went and made tier lists of the game, and everybody who was watching it gave Kenny a little bit of heck for the fact that he still had not gotten around to playing Pikmin. And we were all like, "No, we need to know what Kenny thinks of Pikmin."
Wait, he hadn't played it like at all?
He hadn't played it at all.
Unacceptable.
I am getting in my car as soon as we get off this call.
Why don't we just do that now? We're going to hijack the episode. We're just going to go to Kenny's house.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, he should. So many people in our community played along. there was so many pictures getting posted of people's, like, their final score tallies and stuff from when they finished the game. Like, I think it's the week I've seen the most people finish a game in this community's history.
Yeah.
And it's not even, like, the easiest week to do so. Because it's not a short game, necessarily, either.
Yeah, but didn't we have 2 weeks to play it?
We did.
We did.
Yeah, Kenny has no excuse for not playing this game. Unacceptable. All right, so the next game that we played was Internal Section, which is a 1999 PlayStation title. Obviously not for me. What did you guys think about it?
Not really sure who it was necessarily for, other than, according to the hosts, people who were busy on a trip. And not, like, a trip involving a moving vehicle.
Right.
Hopefully not a trip involving a moving vehicle.
Yes, actually, very true, very accurate.
Yeah, so this is like a screensaver simulator kind of game. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like a glorified visualizer
Yeah.
for your CD player.
But also a Sonic the Hedgehog bonus level.
There
Yeah,
really
put
wasn't
all those together in a blender.
Yeah.
not much to write home about, but
Actually,
it was a very good episode.
yeah, it was. It was really funny to hear everybody. But I would also use this as evidence for Kenny's questionable decisions. He gave this game NGP.
Our next game was Rent a Hero #1. It is a 2000s remake of a Mega Drive title on the Dreamcast. Unlike Internal Section, which I had completely forgotten about until I came back and listened to the episode again, there wasn't a second that went by that I didn't remember this game existed.
Like, for good reasons or bad reasons, because the energy with which you approached that title made it sound a heck of a lot more exciting than I remember it.
It is not exciting. But it is, like they say on the episode, it is one of the most Japanese titles certainly that we've seen on the podcast, but one of the most that I've ever seen. I mean, like, we've got Katamari levels of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been so, like, for a game, hearing about what it's about, and then so, like, not for a game after seeing, like, actual gameplay of it. Because it seems like it would be so cool, but then it's really not good.
Yeah, I wanted to love it so much,
Yeah.
and then it was just boring chore simulator.
Yeah. It also was a really good episode, though. Like, I feel like the guys had really good, stories about the game, and they had really good conversation about it. So it goes to show you that a game that doesn't get NGP from anybody can still make for a really interesting episode, too.
Speaking of games that the randomizer has cursed us with, Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls, was a 1994 SNES and Genesis attempt to capitalize on the big sales of Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat, and honestly, like a whole lot of fighting games that emerged around that time, did not succeed.
Yeah, when this one came up on the podcast, I started to lose hope in ever playing a good game again on the podcast.
Yeah, that was like
it was
3
rough.
in a row that were just kind of absolute stinkers.
Yeah.
Like, none of them necessarily were terrible games. They just didn't do anything fun.
I think that we got so spoiled from the summer pool party, and really, like, we had banger after banger after banger. Like, even the randomizer was giving us gems, like, all summer, and then to come back with, like, what felt like a drought of games was kind of disheartening, for sure. again, another like great episode though. Like we talked about the differences between frogs and toads, which somehow came up in this episode.
What differences? They're the same thing.
Don't upset the frog and toad community.
I mostly remember from the episode Nolan getting very angry at the idea of series changing direction midway through. And now I'm kind of wondering what'll happen if he decides to keep playing through Yakuza and hits the part where it becomes a JRPG.
And don't tell him. All right. The next episode we had was one of my favorite types of episodes for NGP, which is a Redux episode. The guys revisited Perfect Dark. And again, it's great to hear those Redux episodes to see how the podcast has evolved over so many years. It was also really incredible to watch Kenny get stuck on, like, what is it, the training building,
literally the tutorial area that I specifically praised for the fact it gave you a place to figure out the game, and he got lost in it and confused.
Oh,
if anyone was going to get lost in there.
Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I think that first play, again, I definitely want us to plug like first play videos. I'm not sure how many people take the time to watch them, but I think that they're so amazing. That being said, they're not very long usually, but Kenny's first play, I think, is like 18 minutes of him literally being lost in a tutorial.
It never gets old.
It
Watching
doesn't.
Kenny struggle through a first-person game, it never gets old.
No, and it's great that we can sit here and talk about this because he never listens to the Redux episode or the.
He will never see this.
He'll never even know we said anything.
Our next episode was Fazanadu. Did I say it right?
Faxanadu.
Yeah, close enough.
Sure.
Okay, close enough. Faxanadu is a 1987 NES title. And I don't remember much about this one.
This one was really special because Ben, I believe, has been submitting this over. Like, I know I've seen him like on all the
for years.
For years, and if I remember correctly, that the randomizer pulled this. Like, this wasn't even.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing. The fun fact about this game was in the beginning of the game, you could kind of cheat the system and get a little bit more like gold by getting your initial golds from the king, spending it on goods and services.
That's right.
And then coming back to him before starting, and then you would get 1,500 more golds.
It's also the kind of old game that's so fundamentally broken that the item that's supposed to power you up is accidentally coded to power you down.
Oh,
so there's that.
Yeah, the pendant that nerfs you.
I just remembered why I didn't remember this game. It's because I only got about 3 screens in before I gave up.
Oh.
This game beat me down so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't lie, I kind of see it, but I'm also surprised at how positive the guys were about it.
Yeah, they all gave it NGP. So this is definitely an NGP title. It was funny in the first play. Nolan gets more and more unhinged through like the process, because another thing was there's a part in this game where you could buy like, you can buy magic or you can buy martial arts, but you're not actually getting anything.
Yeah, you're not getting new abilities. It just, like, it powers up your strength ability, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought that the sprite work for this game for, a 1987 NES game, I thought the game looked really good.
Yeah, for sure. It looked really good.
Speaking of things that were hard, specifically on your wrists after you're done drawing circle after circle after circle after circle for several minutes in a row, we had Pokemon Ranger, the 2006 DS game, brought to us by our director, Ms. Musso. And this was on my list of games I have always had people telling me, hey, you should check this out. And I just never gotten around to it, so I was glad to have the excuse to.
Yeah, this was a fun one to check out, and I liked it up until the point where it asked me to release this sweet little guy, just like send him off, and I can't do that. I can't do that. I had to quit. I couldn't play the game anymore. It wanted me to send my sweet little boy away.
Aww.
For those who are not watching the video version, Klen does in fact have a tiny, hand-sized Paris pet, just a little plushie, and is holding it up to the camera, and it's wonderful, and I don't blame him.
He's my baby boy.
Aww.
He's my favorite Pokemon of all time, and there's like 1,000 of them now.
That's so sweet. This game for me was definitely like under my radar. I didn't know about this game prior to Miss Muso coming on, and I really loved the wrist breaking circle of Pokemon. It was super cute. It was a super cute game. All right, the next game we played was a 1996 PlayStation title, again with the PlayStation. We played Jet Moto, which is a sports kind of racing-ish game where this was the one where they like flew, right? Like these were like flying jet skis.
They had a long conversation about whether it was a jet ski, a motorcycle,
That's right.
something rocket propelled, whether it was even a racing game. Dustin was very ready to fight over absolutely everything in that episode.
That's right.
Because apparently it's a very important game to his childhood.
Yeah, this was...
Or at least the second one was.
Yeah. Yeah, this was like a big lore title for Dustin. It was like a childhood favorite series.
Well, he brought Jet Moto 2 to the used games.
That's right. The challenge for...
The retro hall
Yeah.
thing.
The retro hall, which definitely go back over the summer for Couch Co-op. We had that event. You should go check that out if you haven't.
Yeah, you should watch all our content all the time and never stop.
Every content.
I
will say Jet Moto was like the token cool racer of NGP 2023, which like we seem to have one of those every year.
I think
this
we only have...
was probably the one.
We probably only have one racer every year, though.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they don't come up very much.
They don't. Oh, wait, no. Don't put more racers in. Nolan hates them. Wink, wink.
Nolan hates racing games.
Specifically Twisted Metal.
The next game was The Land Before Time, Return to the Great Valley. It was a 2000 PlayStation title. Truly the Spyro Orange of our time.
I'd agree with it being probably the worst game out of this batch. The most entertainment I got out of this game was Dustin's Bet Jurassic can transition at the start of the episode.
Yeah, the transition was the best part of the whole thing. Actually, one notable thing about this was, for some reason, I think Kenny was bringing this up, but they were comparing it to like Mario and StarCraft and PoE.
Oh yeah, the conversation just got out of hand on that.
It was unhinged. And then, in pure Kenny fashion, during the first play in this little tiny baby game...
Kenny died. Kenny died a lot.
A lot. He got stuck and game overed over and over and over again. And then...
Hey, if Kenny ever does actually listen to this, I have a confession to make. He's not the only one.
Okay. Well...
who got a game over in that game.
Definitely
it turns out it's extremely easy to die in that game. The guys didn't even talk about the fact that, like, if you slide down a hill too far, even if there's a fine platform below you, nope, that's it, you fell.
That was the thing...
Lose a life, like...
That was the thing that made me really upset about this game, where it was... And if you didn't see it or if you didn't play it, it's very much geared towards, you would think, a younger audience, right? Like, Land Before Time characters are usually geared towards, like, littler kids. The game was not little kid friendly or little kid easy. the platforms were weird. Like there was like weird float to the characters. Like it really just, if I was little and got that game, I'd be so frustrated.
It felt like one of those troll games where, like, the physics are weird on purpose and the platforms move out from under you. Because it just controlled so bad.
Fortunately, we weren't always cursed to have really bad games on this podcast, because what happened next was our anniversary episode, and if you missed it, it's become something of a tradition to have a whole bunch of community members calling in and bringing in their own games and then picking just from a list of call-in games. And this led to a double feature this year where we played 2 games. And first, we'll discuss Portal, aka Narbacular Drop, as everybody clearly knows it. The 2007 legendary PC title that was brought to us courtesy of Harold. For technically its second appearance on the podcast, because it had been an Elements episode previously.
That's right.
Elements. What's that?
I don't know.
It's that thing they keep saying they'll bring back.
The good old
Maybe
days.
someday. If we're lucky. If I live long enough for that. So one of the things about the anniversary call-in was there was a theme this year. The theme was 8 for the 8th anniversary. And I remember the other game's reasoning, but I don't remember what Portal's reasoning was. Was
2
it like
portals
stacking?
stacked on top of...
Okay.
Yeah, 2 portals stacked on top of each other look like an 8.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, like I feel like we've had Portal teasers forever about, you know, how much they love it. And it was so cool to be able to have, you know, them finally be able to like dedicate some time to this game and like actually like talk to it more so than just like whatever an Elements episode is. I don't know what that is. But it was kind of like a love letter to Portal from the guys. And it was really cool to hear, you know, all of the things that they had to say and all of their excitement about it. And then also, isn't this game developed by like students? Wasn't this like a student developed game originally?
Yeah, even if you like already have played Portal and love it and stuff, it's worth going to listen to the episode because they do actually talk about like the story of how this game got made and stuff.
All right. The next game we played in our double feature was Kirby Superstar, which was a 1996 SNES title. It looks like we have some Kirby fans in the chat. However,
listen, Superstar is my baby. I played that game so many times over in my childhood, and I will fist fight Dustin when I meet him over his terrible opinions about Kirby.
Oh, yeah.
Dustin. He's a little problematic when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
I side with Dustin on this one, guys.
All right, I'm leaving. I'm going to Kenny's.
You're going.
If I could lock this camera in place and walk off screen, I would, but my system doesn't work
Okay,
that way.
guys, like Dustin has a point, and can't we just maybe in a world believe that maybe Kirby is kind of like a villain and going around and sucking the souls out of all the other...
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Kirby's a little bit cosmic horror. I thought you were going to talk about the fact that he thinks Kirby is bad.
No, I don't think he's bad. I just think it's, you know, not the best games, and I think that he's a little pink monster.
Our next game was Legend of Mana, a 1999 PlayStation title. PlayStation coming up again. Mm-hmm. MVP. Dustin is eating good this season with all the PlayStation titles.
That's
and the
true.
action RPGs. I am planning to come back to this one before Visions comes out, which was that announced after this game got drawn?
Yeah, that was only announced like a couple of months ago. Hey, by the way, if
Game
you're
Awards,
at home
right?
and are a Mana fan and haven't heard the news, there's a new single-player Mana RPG coming this year for the first time in, like, since the PS2.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, so I certainly have to come back to this one because it is there's no way this one wasn't NGP certified, right? Like,
Well, it didn't really get voted on because it was a director episode brought to us by Siegfried.
oh, it was.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't put that in my notes, so I didn't see that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make sure to do your notes better next time.
Gosh, Garlyle.
Shawna.
Thanks, Garlyle.
Yeah, Shawna, have you played it? Because it seems like the kind of like cozy aesthetic you'd get along with.
So guilty. I have played it, and in fact, I had not played this title. I've heard of it. I knew of it, but I never like picked it up, right? Because 1999, 2000, like there was lots of games to play back then. So when Siegfried came on and was just speaking about just how amazing of a game this was, and I came home and I checked it out, and the time was right. I had a little bit of extra time to take a look at this game, and ever since the episode, I have been obsessively playing this game, and I have not put it down. I'm having so much fun. Gardening and going out and grinding and, taking care of enemies. Like all the things that I love about an RPG are in this game, and I am so excited about it.
Next up is a game that I've certainly already said my piece about. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, the 1999 PC pseudo-sequel to Civilization, kind of. And the reason I've said my piece about it is because if you skipped over that episode, I was on it. I was saving Nolan from having to play it, because that's not Nolan's type of game.
Nope. Once again, Nolan missed an episode. He does that.
Rumor has it he has done it before.
I mean, he'll tell you he's never missed an episode. So we don't know. We don't have the lore on that. This is obviously not a game for me. It was definitely, I felt Dustin's pain during his first play of trying to figure this game out. Like, it hurt my head so much just to watch someone try to play it. My little tiny baby brain can't handle games like this. The next game we played was Gem Smashers, which is a 2003, I guess probably a phone game that they put on the GBA and charged monies for, which is highway robbery. I would like to point out, though, that this was episode 404, and I think it was very fitting for, this title to be 404, because we can just forget it ever existed. Game not found.
Gem Smashers not found.
Gem Smashers not found.
I think this episode was proof that the randomizer was still upset about the success of the summer pool party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was as bad as people have treated it. Like, it wasn't the worst game. We were just talking about The Land Before Time, right?
Okay.
But it definitely was not even a game that seemed to find a niche of people who enjoyed it. It was just kind of meh.
Yeah. This also is, and I feel bad a little bit about this one, but if you go back and listen to the episode, this is another example where we take somebody's nostalgic game and just ruin it. And so this game had a lot of nostalgia for Lieutenant Pat X, who's a listener and community member as well. So this is just one more like that. Cool Spot is another one.
Our next game was not an insignificant title.
So good.
By any means. We had a fan favorite, a host favorite. It was Final Fantasy IX, the 2000 PlayStation title. I haven't said 2000 PlayStation title at all today.
No.
No.
First time.
Yeah, this game is magical. By all means, and by all reason. It's a special game, for sure, and I also need to come back and finish it. The curse of NGP is, playing along every week. I will start so many of these games, and then the next week rolls around, and I'm like, I'll come back to it. I never come back to it. Maybe someday, though.
Yeah.
at least one person who said that did. For those of you who missed Kenny's tier list, he has finished Final Fantasy IX. He did enjoy it quite a bit, just not as much in love as, Dustin and Nolan were. And you know how it gets when Dustin and Nolan love a thing and Kenny doesn't. And it doesn't matter. It will never be good enough. He might as well hate it.
Yep.
Next up, the randomizer reminded us it did in fact hate us by bringing us 1999's Zombie Revenge, a Dreamcast and arcade game that was technically a House of the Dead spin-off. And if we're going to get a House of the Dead spin-off, why couldn't it have been Typing of the Dead?
Oh, Typing of the Dead was good.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah, that would have been nice. That wouldn't have had any difficulty to play, at all. Would have just, been fun. I will say, I know Kenny was playing Final Fantasy IX that week. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, Kenny doesn't normally do super well with, the zombie titles in general. And when you have the choice between Final Fantasy IX and, Zombie Revenge, it's kind of an easy choice what to play instead.
Yeah, Zombie Revenge.
Yeah, that's a game. So, okay, this game was better than I thought it was going to be. I have a lot of bias against arcade titles that become console titles for reasons of, they just not feeling like they port correctly, and just it doesn't, the quality of life for the player, it just feels kind of janky a lot of the times. Originally, I thought that this game was going to be one of those shooters where it was on a track, like Time Crisis. So I was really pleasantly surprised that it wasn't that. But
I mean, that's what the House of the Dead series originally was.
I know, but it's just...
And it's a spin-off from that.
I just hate that. It's just so stressful. And you're already dealing with zombies and, timed areas. Why does it have to be so stressful? Can't it just be cozy?
It still ended up... Yeah, it still ended up pretty stressful with just the, beat 'em up, plus you have a timer over your head for each section, and just... I don't know. It was trying a lot of things, but I just don't think it meshed well.
All right, and because we weren't done with zombies, we went back for Left 4 Dead.
We did get 2 zombie games.
Back to back.
Oh, goodness.
We did.
We sure did.
We did, and this was a 2008 PC Xbox 360 title, and it was a director's episode with our friend Riff.
This was so much fun. That whole week was so much fun. I think, Garlyle, you and I spent 10 hours in Discord playing with community members, all week.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite that much time on my account, but we did have... I remember we had a group with you and me and Super Gamer Guy and Riff himself, I believe, all came together to just hang out and play through the campaign and stuff. Modded to heck and back.
Oh, this is that
and
game.
I will say...
Okay.
Yes, Klen was the one who had the crazy mods. Even I installed some mods, though. My, big beef with Left 4 Dead is everything's so dark and hard to distinguish that, I don't see the special zombies until they're probably already dealt with by my teammates. So I started installing mods that would have, Yoshi's story music playing when, the smokers came up and stuff.
Nice.
Actually made a huge difference to my skill.
Yeah, I had a lot of Teletubbies, and I think one of the brightness things that helps is... you can get a mod to change the blood to the, paint splatter from, GoldenEye.
Gotcha.
Our next game, if you were Left 4 Dead, you may have become an isolated warrior.
Good one.
Hey!
Yeah, Isolated Warrior was a 1991 NES title. I have developed such a fear of these late NES titles because so many of them turn out to be this game's quality. A lot of the
Do you
good
mean that
ones,
in a good way or a bad way?
You played it.
I mean, I did. And I'm... if you mean specifically in the, this is almost actually really close to being really good.
It was...
But it's just kind of missing something.
Yeah. Just there's something about this game that was just a little, like, vapid. Like, it was just missing something. And I'm not sure what it was.
Speaking of games that I think everybody sort of wanted to love, but just couldn't quite get there, the weird little Bangayo Spirits, the 2008 DS title that was like kind of an action game, kind of a shmup, kind of a stage-based puzzler. It was... I don't know if confused is the right word for it, because I think, like, Nolan said, like, he thinks the game was exactly what it meant to be. The rest of us are just still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think the problem is it was trying to do a little too much. Like, it was a little too complicated for the type of game it was trying to be. Because there's other games that really succeed at that style of, like, custom stage develop stuff, but you need to have, like, one or two controls that you just have to master. This one had every button on the DS was allocated to something. And it was
Allocated
really
to, like,
overwhelming.
two things, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Treasure did the same thing with, like, Alien Warrior or whatever it was, right? Like,
Yep.
Alien Soldier? Yeah.
Alien Soldier, yeah.
Yeah, this game was far above my abilities, and, you know, Nolan getting stuck on replay where you would think, like, it means, oh, replay this level, but it was just replaying his death over and over again. I would have totally done that if I hadn't watched the first play and, like, seen that. But I was...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's such a, like, shmup fan thing that, like, you will know instantly if you were the target audience by what replay means to you. Because, like, recording and replaying your performance on shmups is a thing.
So it...
Like, that is an audience-specific thing, but it absolutely makes sense why it would confuse somebody outside that.
Yeah, so this would be a really great example, Gar, of games that people would like, but find it really hard to recommend to other people. One of the things that I was surprised about, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, I feel like usually Treasure games do really well for us. Like, I know that
They do.
Yeah, and I was surprised that this one in particular didn't get any votes for New Game Plus this time.
I think Nolan said yes,
Did he?
but that was it. Or no, Nolan really wanted to give it a yes.
Okay.
But he just, yeah.
It is really hard. But yeah, I was surprised to see Treasure, not pull through for us here. The next game we played was Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, which is one of my favorite consoles, a GameCube game from 2005. And this also was a director's episode with our good friend Arlen Yuki. And I would say, as far as episodes go, Arlen is so passionate about this game. It was so just invigorating to hear how much he knew about this title and just deep lore. It was so cool. Just in general, when we have director's episodes, when it's a really important game to the person, I just love episodes like this one.
Yeah, this one, so first off, I want to mention, since I joined the podcast and started playing along 4 years ago now, we hadn't actually had a single Pokemon game up until this batch where we had 2 of them.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Yeah, no, the Pinball and Stadium and Red and Blue were all before my time joining the podcast. It's been that long since we had been discussing Pokemon.
That's crazy.
So I'm actually really glad both Arlene and Ms. Busso finally brought the series back, because there's so many Pokemon games, y'all.
Yeah.
And also, I was just really glad to finally play it, because I'm actually with Arlen on I don't like Generation 3, but I loved the Ore region because I loved Colosseum, and I somehow, in spite of that, never actually sat down to play Gale of Darkness. And it was funny streaming it for friends on Discord and having them be like, man, why doesn't Scarlet and Violet animate this well? What the heck?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad when a game almost 20 years old is outperforming the brand new titles.
Yeah, at least in terms of like the personality animations and stuff. But this is just such a neat little weird spin. And if you don't know what the Ore games were and are a Pokemon fan, you should go listen to the episode and find out. Because there's some of the neater spin-off games that still feel like mainline games.
Our next game was The Wonderful End of the World, a 2008 PC title. It was I'll make sure I get this right, the first Steam exclusive release. Correct?
That we have played on the podcast, yeah. This was, like, we were just talking about Portal. And Portal was part of the Orange Box, which was when Steam launched. Like, that was the shared launcher for the Orange Box games on PC. And then shortly after that, Valve actually started to open it up and say, hey, if there are other publishers, like indie or big, that want to get their game out there and have a market for it on PC and stuff, like, we'll let you sell our game via our market. And The Wonderful End of the World was one of the earliest games to be on there. Like, it was part of one of the first big, like, Steam sales and their first ARGs and stuff. And so I'd always had my eye on the game, and now having played it, I feel like the word that would get used to describe it if it was released today would be asset flip.
Yeah, pretty much. It's Katamari, but you're not a ball, essentially.
No, you're like they looked like just atoms walking around, little
Yeah.
like it was.
Well, you're an invisible mannequin, essentially.
It just made
A
me
puppet on the strings.
It just made me so mad to see it. I don't know, this I wanted to play Katamari instead.
I did play Katamari instead that week.
I am going to be coming back for the speed run. I took a break, but I'm coming back for it.
Well, Klen, you said you liked this game, right?
I love this game.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, like, to be fair, meh Katamari is still a pretty good time, because Katamari is just really fun. This game just feels like it's unfinished in a way. Like, there's just like, it's a functional game, and then they just stopped developing it and went, ship it. You know?
Good enough. One of the, like, I know obviously we make very obvious comparisons between this game and Katamari. So that started a really good conversation in Discord, which was like us figuring out, like, okay, what makes it different? What is it, that makes those two different? And obviously, like, you're walking around versus rolling. And then we started to learn about, like, the different patents or something to that effect for, like, Katamari and this game. And so it was really good, just like chat within the community on this one.
Next up is The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, a 2004 PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox JRPG, but not made by Jay. And if you can't tell by the lack of enthusiasm in my voice, I'm not actually a big Lord of the Rings fan. In fact, I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan at all. Unlike the guys who, kind of went a little bit nuts over this game, and I'm glad Kenny was there to kind of rein them in and be all like, hey, it's all right, but it's not great.
Yeah, actually, I made a note about this one, because it's very rare that Kenny will come in and have, like, a strong opinion about something, and, like, he'll have, his opinions about things.
Measured.
Yeah, like, very measured, and sometimes he, is wrong about things like Doshi and the Giant, but, it's very rare that he has, like, a strong opinion about something, and he definitely came in as that voice of reason, and he kind of balanced out Dustin, because Dustin came into the episode almost swinging to defend this game right off the jump.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun game. Like, I grew up with it, so I have, like, emotional attachment to it. But yeah, if you don't like Lord of the Rings, it's not doing anything to necessitate going out of the way for.
And we're back again 6 months later, and I think that this is a record for us to have two titles within a very short period of time with each other. It's a beloved title by many people. We were back with another PlayStation 2 title, Kingdom Hearts 2 from 2005. And yeah, like we played the first one over the summer, right? That was a part of the summer pool party?
Yeah, we were talking about that last retro recap because it was in the summer pool party.
Yeah.
And then we hit another producer pool and Joey dropped it in and bam, there it was.
Yeah, it was so fun to see this one come up because infamously, Dustin doesn't like the first game, and like I don't blame him, but I wanted so badly for him to play this one because it's so much better as a game, and it does so many better things. Like the gummy ship is fixed, and all the other attributes and characters and stuff that are just so much better here. I'm glad he got to experience them.
Yeah, all the little stuff, like just making it so the cutscenes actually tell you where you're headed next instead of running randomly around the worlds waiting for the next cutscene to trigger. Kingdom Hearts 2 is a really good example of, sequels can actually learn from their predecessors, and even if it took them till the third game to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of the dream, right? Is that you hope that they do iterate and make themselves better. And I love having a game so close to the first, when we played the first one, because that was my feedback too. Was like I bounced off the first one. I definitely was not like looking forward to coming back to the second one, but that was the feedback and advice that you guys were all giving me, was to check out the second title. And from what I saw from the first play, like it definitely did seem way more improved than what I was experiencing in the first one. Granted, I didn't play this week because I was still playing Legend of Mana, so I was doing that instead.
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry. It's just so good. You guys should play it like forever. But also Nolan was flexing his, God gamer abilities by, really hard selling critical mode for us.
The next game is Dungeons and Dragons Heroes. It's a 2003 Xbox title. You also can't talk about this one without saying Diablo.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time there's a good reason for it, though, because it's basically... It's less Dungeons and Dragons heroes and more Diablo heroes. Like, it's literally just using the generic fantasy parts of D&D to flavor it.
Yeah.
Yep. I still can't get over how much this game felt like a prototype. Like, it felt legitimately unfinished.
Oh.
Just so bare bones to me.
Oh, goodness.
At least.
I hadn't really thought about it at the time, but thinking back, I kind of get it. Like, it's sort of just missing that extra something in identity, or like the characters... God, you really should be able to mix and match characters. How's character creation not a part of a Dungeons and Dragons game? Come on.
Yeah, that's true. Well, as one of the handful of people, well, that's not true. There's a lot of people that had original Xbox. I did, and I knew this game existed. I hadn't played it, but I think that I would have really enjoyed this title back then, because I really felt like if you weren't playing Halo, there wasn't really a whole lot of other games that you could play on the Xbox, or that was worth playing on the Xbox, because there was also like PS2 and GameCube at the same time. So I don't know. I would have enjoyed this title back in 2003. I don't think, I agree with what you're saying where it feels unfinished now in 2024. But yeah, it's especially now that we like talk about the character, not being able to build your own characters. Like, what's the point?
Yep. Well, I mean,
yeah.
if you had friends to play with, the multiplayer is where this game certainly had a lot of bones, because I can imagine having a lot of fun dungeon crawling with another 3 people on screen, but
Okay, well,
Solo in modern day, it's not really doing a whole lot.
2003 Shawna
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of friends, Klen.
Or
If
Xbox
you're at
controllers.
home,
Yeah, that too.
If you're at home as like an Xbox fan, I'm actually really curious to hear, like, were there any like very genuinely Xbox exclusive games that sold you on the console? Because I can't say I look back at the console fondly at all. Like, very little of what I enjoyed on it was actually truly just Xbox. To wrap up, the most recent game that was covered on the podcast was Super Mario Bros. 2, or Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, take your pick. The 1986 Famicom Disk System, / re-released onto, like, most Nintendo consoles since title. This one's a really interesting one within the community because of just... If you played this game on the original Famicom Disk System, every time you game over it was back to the start of the world. And that was rough. But if you played it on All-Stars, it meant back to the start of the level, and that's a very different experience. And then we had some people taking advantage of the Switch version, has like inbuilt save states and rewind. And like how you experience this game, I think, had a big effect on how people felt about this game.
I was in the first crowd. I'm
so sorry.
A couple other people in the community have the Game & Watch, the little collectible Game & Watch, and that's how I played it. And that's the original version with back to the beginning of the world. I only made it to 1-3.
Wow. Yeah, this game...
Before I gave up.
This game was very much like watching, I think, was it Mario Maker, where people go and make those like really hard like levels. That was the vibe that I was getting from this game. It seemed so hard. And even, you know, our god tier gamer Nolan didn't beat it like he promised that he would.
He could. He just didn't have the time.
Yeah,
he was just busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He ran out
That's
of
totally it.
game juice, he said.
Yeah, funny that you bring up Mario Maker. Like, there's definitely some feeling there, but like, if playing around in Mario Maker has taught me anything, there is a big difference between like a really well done challenge level and just a bunch of pieces slapped together in a way that is really punishing. And like, it's really hard to describe, but you know when you've come out of it as either, oh, I beat that thing, heck yeah, I did it, versus, oh my god, thank god that's over. And I think for this, I found myself mostly on the latter. All right. And that finally catches us up on half a year worth of episodes, because we didn't even like mention the Christmas cast and stuff. It's been a while, and it'll probably be a while before we talk to you guys again. So, before we go, can I ask you guys, what was your favorite game that you played along with out of this batch? And what was your favorite episode to listen to? Shawna, I have a feeling you have a new favorite game that'll be pretty easy, so why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I really loved Legend of Mana. And I think that this is just a testament to the podcast in general, because you can find a game or discover a game or rediscover a game that you didn't know that you would love. And sure, maybe it's like an older title, it's like over 20 years old, but it's so exciting to find a new favorite title. And so that was definitely my favorite game. And then my favorite episode, I'm going to be really biased. I really love the Christmas episodes when Tom comes on and hosts us and has those really fun trivia questions for the guys. I love our Christmas episodes.
My answers are going to be very different. My favorite game, I kind of have a tie for my top two. The first one is Wonderful End of the World. It really took me by surprise, and I really fell in love with it. I got really into the speed run and the physics, which is surprisingly deep for how shallow the game feels otherwise. The other game I really loved was Left 4 Dead. Getting to play that with the community was so much fun. It's one of my favorite things we've done as a Discord community. And I am looking forward to hosting some game nights coming up moving forward. Hopefully in March we'll have our first one. We'll try to figure out a time and set that up. So if you are not in the Discord community, go to discord.gg/newgameplus and join the community so you can be a part of that. And my favorite episode was, I didn't think about this part, the anniversary episode.
Well, that's fair enough. The favorite game I had the experience playing in the past one was Kirby Superstar. And yes, it was a childhood game, but also I had the fun experience because it's on the Nintendo Switch Online. I actually played through it with a friend of mine who had never played a Kirby game before in her life. And so I got to actually play as like the partner and assist character and back her up and experience it with her. And it was great. I love just getting to do that with friends. And my favorite episode, I think I do have to go with Jet Moto, just because like it was absurd how much Dustin was absolutely there to fight people who were even agreeing with him. And he's like, no, you don't understand. So, with that said, it'll be a little while before we talk to you guys again, because our next game of the week, if you haven't heard the news, the Kentucky Kid is bringing us another Director's episode featuring Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock.
As Klen holds a Guitar Hero controller over his head in victory.
Yeah, I kind of wish I still had mine for this, but that era was long past for me, but I'm very interested to see. The guys have secured themselves Guitar Hero controllers. They knew this was coming up for a while and had time to prepare itself. So, like, don't worry. They're going to come to you with the real Guitar Hero experience.
And aren't they going to play it on this year's Couch Co-op?
They better.
I hope so.
They don't have any excuse not to.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you liked what you've heard this episode, Klen already brought it up, but like, hey, come hang out on the Discord with the whole lot of us. Discord.gg/newgameplus, y'all. You can also head to patreon.com/NGBpodcast if you're enjoying the show as a whole, and join the ranks of those of us who support the show financially. For like 8 years now. Jesus, 8 years. Holy cow. So, I'd like to thank all of our many producers. Alex, Alias X, Amarlian, Antonin, Arlene Yuki, Ben, Big Dude, Craig, Dustin's 5 O'Clock Shadow, Helix, Harold, Hey Brother, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Joey, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Klen, Corey, Levi, Maxima, Megatroid and Metroid, Miss Muso, Not Enough Dog, Riff Sajin, Shane, Shawna, The Smashing Bricks Retro Gaming Podcast, Stephen Fox, Psycho Mantis, Thomas Turtle, Unbedave Bull, and Zion, and our directors, Brojim, Justified, Super Hyper, The Kentucky Kid, and Siegfried. I'm so glad that that list gets increasingly difficult for me to say every single time I have to. A huge thank you to Dustin, Kenny, and Nolan for letting us take over. A big thanks to Dan Willett and Dylan and Dave for all of the audio and video and graphic editing that this podcast lives on. The regular hosts will be back next time to get copyright claimed by covering Guitar Hero 3. Until the next retro recap, I've been Not Dustin.
And I've been Not Kenny.
I'm Clenolan.
And this has been New Game Plus.